Hey, it's Zim, and should you play Humankind? Now, this is a 4X game from Amplitude Studios. If you're not familiar with them, they are the ones who do the Endless series, which is Endless Space 2, Endless Legends, and Endless Dungeons. Now, this is their first game moving away from the Endless series. However, it is still a 4X game. It utilizes a lot of their systems and a lot of their combat that they've utilized in the past. They do some unique and interesting things, though, with how they're doing their specific take on Civ, and I think it's definitely worth checking out. But we're going to go ahead and jump into a new game. Now, if you are loading this game up for the first time, you'll essentially get an option to create your own avatar, kind of over here to the right, and then it will ask you a question. It'll ask, how familiar are you with these 4X games? And you can have the three choices are not at all, you're somewhat familiar, and you want no tutorial whatsoever. It'll then throw you into a game right away, and you'll proceed from there. Based on my experiences, it seems like if you are not familiar at all, it'll set the difficulty to very easy. If you say you're somewhat familiar, it'll set it about easy, and then if you say no tutorial whatsoever, it will set you to essentially a normal difficulty. However, once you get out of that first game, and of course you are welcome to quit right away, you can then start loading new game. You can go up to 10 AIs. Obviously, there is multiplayer as well. And it'll show you these different factions available and the avatars. You can switch these around. And if you link your G2G account, which is their personal account, you can actually download a ton of other avatars from other people who've created their own avatars and have unique personalities. I won't go too deep into creating the avatars. It's something you can definitely check out yourself. It's got okay amount of detail and customization, but it's not overly amazing, at least in my opinion. Now, looking at world settings, ton of different settings here. What you'd expect from a 4X game for customizing your map. Now, here are your different paces. There's a little bit of a discussion going on. Some people don't feel like the game is fast enough. Some people feel the game is too fast, even on the endless difficulty, which obviously is meant to be a lot longer. I see a lot of people doing a lot of blitz game modes. I think personally the pacing of the game feels good at normal. I will say that almost all of them have a problem with, by the time you're reaching an end of an era, you never get to utilize the units or the technology for that era. You're just moving on to a new era, so you don't want to like build old units. You want to start building the new stuff, so it makes like a lot of these personalized units feel a little bit less impactful. So I would like to see that maybe changed a little bit, but for the most part I think the pace is fine. And then we have the different difficulties. So Hamlet's very easy, Town is easy, and Metropolis is technically normal. These are the three difficulty settings that the question will set you to based on your answer. Obviously, you also have tons of different harder ones. The AI is pretty decent. I will say that in Hamlet, Town, and Metropolis, especially in Hamlet and Town, the AI is not challenging at all. You'll also notice there's a peaceful option. This means that the AI will never declare war on you. It's a cool feature if you're trying out new things or if you're trying specifically to make something happen. I will say that playing on Town mode, I couldn't get the AI to ever go to war with me, so I never felt like peaceful was going to be necessary. But I do see that when I was playing in Nation and Empire, that the AI was far more aggressive. So it is something to keep in mind if you feel like the AI is too aggressive, or if you're just trying out a new strategy and want to do something specific, you can turn on peaceful mode, which will cause them to not go to war with you. Although you can, of course, declare war on them. Different maps. Obviously, we have none currently. And then content is if they bring out expansions, which I expect this game will. It comes with the add-ons if you have the deluxe edition or the pre-order and stuff like that. And then obviously updates will be shown here as well, which I imagine we'll see some come through pretty soon here. But we're going to jump into a game and you'll get to see what it looks like.
Leap into the future.
Alright, so as you can see, there is a narrator for this game. He comes in and out every so often when certain milestones are met and certain technologies are reached. Not everything is fully narrated, which is kind of a bummer. But it's still a nice addition nonetheless. Now, right away, this game is gorgeous. I do have it turned down slightly. I normally play on beautiful. I think it's set to good right now, and there's actually one higher for that, but that even says like it's kind of made for very high-end equipment. I run about a medium graphics card, and I'm able to do beautiful quite well. But with the game capture software, I did have to turn it down a little bit, but this game is beautiful like you'd expect, and also has an amazing soundtrack. Now, as you've noticed, we started a game and I haven't chose a faction. That is the point of this game, is that you as a human species will be developing and evolving your cultures throughout the eras. So if we click over here, we can see we are currently in the Neolithic. We move on to the Ancient, then we move on to Classical, then Medieval, Early Modern, Industrial, and Contemporary. Now all of these eras are going to have essentially unique factions or unique cultures that you'll be able to choose, which will add on additional bonuses and give you access to their specific unit for that time. It's a pretty neat system. I will say that certain factions throughout the eras are a lot stronger than other factions. So in a single player game, it's not that big of a deal. Might add to the challenge. But in a multiplayer situation, there definitely needs to be some better balancing. Turks, for example, is something that a lot of people are talking about because it just does some really silly things. There's also a couple early ones that I'll show off as well. But as you can see, we won't advance our era until we gain some stars. In this case, we only need one, and so we will go about doing that. How do we gain stars? Well, we are hunter-gatherers, and we're going to wander around. Now, currently, this game has a decent amount of bugs. It's a kind of a letdown. None of them are game-breaking by any means. There's still a ton of fun to be had with this game, but there are noticeable bugs throughout the game that can kind of dampen the enjoyment and the spirit of the game. One of these, which is unclear whether it's a bug or just a weird interaction, is there's an auto-explore. Now, I could send these guys off in any which direction and hope that I start discovering things, which is how you're going to help gain certain things, whether it's additional people with food or whether it's with research, which will eventually go to a star. However, if you hit auto explore, it will automatically move them to one of those points. So if we hit auto explore, we'll watch them. Oh, look, they've discovered
Full bellies and healthy
food
children.
right away.
I see where
Now,
this is
I
going.
would never have gone that way, right? Or maybe I got lucky and I would have. However, on auto explore, they always seem to naturally drift right away towards these unique spots where you're going to pick stuff up and discover things. It seems like an unintended interaction. It's probably there just for the AI itself and not really meant for the player, but right now, currently, if you are trying to get out of the Neolithic era as fast as possible, you want to turn on auto explore. Now, once we've explored, we got some food. We see that if we get 10 more food, we'll generate some more of our tribe. But we're going to go ahead and enter turn right there. And they're going to move up there. And oh, look, they found another one.
Else. You
Crazy,
could
right?
learn what killed them.
So that is either a bug or just an unintended issue. But currently, if you're playing the game, you'll definitely want to use auto explore because that's the best use of your time. You'll eventually want to set up an outpost. Doing so will essentially allow you to generate more of what you need. I did not want to put it there, but it's fine because we're going to be out of the Neolithic era pretty soon, and then I'm going to actually jump around to some of my other games that are currently in progress or that I finished, but some of the earlier timelines, just to kind of show off some things as well. And we're going to hit auto explore for that. And look, they found another one. So you can clearly tell that like the auto explore is an issue. And as you can see, we'll also get random events throughout the entire game, something that you're probably used to if you played Civ or any of the endless games. These are all going to have different effects happening. You can always hover over them to see the rewards. A little bit of a story. Some of them are more common than others. All right, and we've unlocked the Knowledge Star, which is an era star. So now we are going to be able to select a new culture for the era. So as you can see, we're given many different options here. Something to know is the Harappans are very good. The Egyptians are very good. The Nubians are decent. I played my first game with the Olmecs. They're okay. All of these kind of have different bonuses. They'll tell you, and then so each one has essentially a specific trait, a unique building, and a unique unit. Now, once you move up from these, so let's say I start as the Mycenaeans, and then I move into another era, I will be replacing the Mycenaeans with a different civilization, which means I can no longer build their special building or their special unit, but it's probably going to continue to stack on whatever I've been building my society on anyway. But it allows you to also pivot. It's a cool idea. It's got some fun ideals to it. Sometimes it feels a little bit weird, though. In the medieval era, you can play the English, which is what I was doing, and then when I developed into the next era, the natural progression for the strategy I was going put me with the Native Americans, so I went from these nice stone cottages with chimneys back to teepees and huts. So that kind of felt weird, but as you can see, whatever society you'll choose will also change the appearance of your faction as well. So we're going to go ahead and choose the Jouot, and it'll change my outfit on my avatar. Tell me what I'm going. Confirm. And we'll just end turn here. And we'll see a little cutscene. We're going to skip this though, and then you can see our tribe change.
When you have deep philosophers and dangerous chariots.
And so also our outpost, once it becomes a city, will also become very similar to that faction's theme. Now, as you build different, as they're called, districts or quarters, these quarters will also have buildings. Those images will change based on your faction and the era. However, these major cities will never change, which is a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, because what will happen is, as we'll see in one of my later games, I have like a Mayan-style pyramid temple at the heart of like my main city, and we're in the modern era, and it just drives me crazy. Like, I wish the main cities would also change their appearance based on whatever faction you currently are. Anyways, that's kind of the basics of the game. We're going to go over some mechanics. I'm not going to go over how to exactly play the game because we'd be here forever. However, if you are familiar at all with the Endless series, you know that they use the FID system, which is food, industry, money, science. Also stability and diplomacy, which were added later but never added to the FIM's acronym. So basically, what you'd expect if you're a Civ player, food helps produce people, industry helps produce everything in terms of building things and getting things out faster. Money is money, so it's going to be used to build things ahead of schedule. It's going to be used to bribe people. It's going to be used to get different resources. So like incense, or we have horses as well somewhere. You can use those as trade. So money is semi-useful for a bunch of different things. And then, of course, science is research, which we can take a look at now. When you hit the research button, it brings up this little side screen. Now, this side screen is great if you know the research tree. But for your first few games, this is not great, and I wish they would actually direct you to this one, because this is the one that's going to show you how everything links up, where everything aligns. Now, you also notice these giant numbers in the back. These are based on your era, so this is the first era, this is the second era, all the way through to the 6th era. So obviously I can't make technology if my society is still stuck in the ancient era. So I can't start working on things in era 2. As you can show, it'll show you the different things it gives you. So different buildings, units, and resources. And then also you can see these lines. So if I do domestication, I then can have access to the wheel as well, which is where my chariots are. The technology tree is pretty decent. I do find that you probably, for at least the first 3 eras, you'll probably have most of it unlocked, and then you won't have to start making actual choices until like era 4 and higher. And that really just depends on your faction as well. If you're in heavy research, you could probably even push that even more. We also have civics. You can show civics here. Actually, it doesn't have unlocked, so I'll show it on a future game. But FIMs are pretty important to you. You can also see your overview. This is how you're getting stars. So you can notice now that we need 7 stars before you can advance the next era. That is true for the rest of the eras. Only the Neolithic are the first era star. From there, you will choose to go after these things. Some of them will happen naturally, and you're all trying to gain fame. Fame is your big win condition. With fame, at the end of the game, will total, and then whoever has the highest wins, whoever has the lowest loses. It's usually in the AI's favor in the first early eras, so like usually the first 3, I've noticed that there's usually an AI or 2 ahead of me, but they don't seem to scale well in the end game. Like they just have trouble keeping up with fame and making those stars, partly because at least in the harder difficulties, AIs are super aggressive at just exploring and putting outposts everywhere. It's something that was a problem in Endless Space 2, which was just like kind of outpost spam, and the AI seems to do that in this game as well. Technically, it's a good strategy. It's just kind of frustrating to see because it's not very interesting. Anyway, I'm going to jump us to one of my games in the future and kind of show off the civic system, and then we'll also look at the war system. Alrighty, welcome to my future game. As you can see, we're kind of dominating this area here. This was one of the games I actually finished. This is about halfway through, but I figured it'd be a great point to kind of show you different things. As you can see, we're currently the Native Americans, so all my buildings have regressed from when I was the English, which is weird to me. And as you can see, there's that Mayan temple I was talking about from my Olmec's very first ancient era. Just wish that these cities would upgrade with you, because that would be nice. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and look at that civics. And here we have a half wheel, all kind of based around different things. Do I think they'll expand upon this? Yes, I do. However, with the base game, this is all you get, and I think it's a decent amount. You'll notice that you'll spend influence on this. Influence is kind of a currency used for a ton of things. It's for spreading your faction, as well as policies within your faction. Influence is a very good thing to have. But as you can see, you'll have different things, and each of these will push towards one or the other and give different bonuses. Now you'll notice that all of them, while in the middle, give stability on all your cities. That is nice. Stability is very key to keeping your society functioning. However, as you get further, you'll lose that stability, but gain a different reward instead. Civics are unique kind of laws. Each society you build will probably use and choose different ones based on what you're going for, which is good, though there are definitely some that I think are a little bit better than others. You can also look at my influence and how it's spreading across the different societies here. So as you can see, I have heavy influence in my opponent's areas. They, like at this point, they have 2%. I hold 98% of this. Now that could mean that their people start complaining and wanting to join me, which then I can then demand that they let them go, which can lead towards different war things, which is a great way of showing war.
You come to me with a proposition. Let us see what is possible.
So here we have the avatar for this faction. It's actually different than what it was. This is supposed to be Lucy, as you can tell in the name. And this is clearly not Lucy. So that's new. But we have different war support. We're going to look at a faction that hates me right now, which is the Mongols. Not a surprise, really. And as you can see at the top here, there's what's called war support. Now, with war support, you can do a couple things. Essentially, if you want to declare war on someone, I could do it right now. However, with this war support, it's not going to last very long because my people aren't really behind me. And worse, I'm not going to have very many demands against this person. However, every time something happens, you get what's called a grievance. With these grievances, you can essentially demand that they do something. If they refuse, you gain war support, and it gets added to your demands. With that, once you go to war, you can fight them, and once they surrender or are defeated, you get rewards based on your demands and your war support. Meaning that if your war support is low, even if you beat them, your people weren't really supporting you, and so you're not going to get much from that war either. I've seen a lot of people talk about this online. I think I like it a lot. A lot of people seem to like it a lot, but there are some people who aren't used to it and feel like they got cheated or there's a negative to it. It's not a go face smash rar type of system. It's very much you have to be tactical about it, and wars can quickly turn based on war support. Like, if you have no war support, you have to surrender. You don't get a choice. And once that surrender happens, then they get to spend their war points however they want on their demands. Something to keep in mind. As you can see, his war support is 80. He could declare war on me, but they just won't. You'll notice my war support is very low with this faction, though. That's because we're in an alliance. I could break that alliance. That'd probably bring up our war support. But you also notice there's a minimum. It's kind of set to 5 here. We're both set at 5 right now. It's very unlikely we'll go to war. Now, you'll get pop-ups throughout the game, kind of down here. So we have like, oh, you chose a new culture. And so that'll also talk to you about war support. One of the problems currently with war support is it will tell you you're about to lose and surrender while you are allied to a faction. So I got a message saying, hey, you're about to lose, your war support's at 20, you're going to be surrendering to the Ghanaians. And I was confused. I was like, what? I'm going to lose? No, that's not the case. That for some reason, the game just tells you that for no reason. Like, it doesn't affect, you're in alliance, you're not at war. It shouldn't be ever updating you about that unless you're at war. So unfortunately, currently, you'll get a message with allies saying your war support is low, you're about to surrender. Or I've also had it vice versa, where it says, hey, the Ghanaians, their war support's under 20, you're about to win. And it's like, but we're not at war. I shouldn't be getting this message. There are visual bugs, unfortunately, currently present. If I were to, let's see, hover one of my armies over, unfortunately I can't go to war with them. Looking at that, it gives me a preview in this war screen. Sometimes that war screen will bug out, causing all that like overlay over the actual terrain to just stay like that instead of showing the terrain, which is quite frustrating. You'll also have it to where like armies aren't present on the map even though they are. So what'll happen is like I've landed on an island later on in this game. Later on in this game, I landed on this island here, and there was a tribe, and then there's some wandering soldiers down this bottom corner. However, the game had them invisible, like they just weren't showing up graphically, and so when I stepped off my boat, I immediately ended up into a battle because it thought I was attacking something that wasn't originally there. It's super weird. Hopefully, we'll see that some of these visual bugs clean up within a patch very soon. War support back. We can see that later on, these guys are going to start demanding that I join their state religion. That's their biggest grievance. This will give them bonus war support. And what will happen is the AI will spam this at you every turn until they have enough to go to war with you. It's super frustrating. It's not technically a bug, but there definitely seems to be an oversight there. It definitely needs to have like a cooldown of like 5 turns before they can demand you convert to their religion again. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll quickly know, and sometimes multiple AIs will just start spamming you with that, and it's super frustrating. Also, with grievances, if you're allied to someone, in this case, I'm allied to Lucy. This is not Lucy. But if I'm allied to Lucy and Lucy decides to go to war with the Mongols, the Mongols will lodge a grievance with you, and so will Lucy, saying you are friends with the person I'm going to war with, you're allies with the person I'm going to war with, something along the lines of that, which is super frustrating because A, the game doesn't give you an option to join their war beforehand. They just choose to go to war with someone, and then you suffer consequences because of it, which is really odd. So I do want to see something kind of change about that. Also, all games currently, if you're playing normal, will run to 300 turns. Based on your pacing, that will change. Obviously, Blitz is a lot shorter. Endless goes to 600. So far, with the normal and the tech tree, I will say that by the time I had gotten to the end of the game, turn 300, I had barely scratched the technologies in 6. I've seen some people able to rush them faster if you're going all science, but I don't think that's the idea. I think we need a little bit more time with the end era, although I've seen a lot more bugs with the end era, especially with like pollution and things like that, so it seems like maybe they are planning to extend it once they have a little bit more time. Things seem a little bit just rushed with this game right now. It is very good, however, but there are just some noticeable bugs and noticeable amounts of rushing that have maybe made the game lesser than it could have been. So, should you play Humankind? For me, the answer is yes. This game is gorgeous. It's got great audio. It's got great gameplay. It's got everything you need to grab and hold someone's attention for hundreds, if not thousands of hours. Something a 4K game absolutely has to do right. However, is it worth picking up right now? And I think the answer is no. I would wait a week or two until we can start seeing some patches roll out to fix some of these bugs. Now, I haven't personally experienced any game-breaking bugs. However, some people still have. Now, that's mostly been tied to if you played in the beta and some of that data has been overlapping, and so you need to delete the beta data first and then install the game. But other people have had game crashes and game freezing, which I have yet to ever experience. It could be very dependent on your graphics card and processor, who knows. So, with those game-breaking bugs, plus the numerous bugs that everyone is currently experiencing that aren't game-breaking, like visual bugs or even gameplay issues, I think while this game is amazing, you should probably hold off for the foreseeable future. Like I said, a week or two, once you start seeing some patches roll out, fixing these bugs. I do have trust in Amplitude, and I know that they are going to be working hard on fixing a lot of this stuff. So if you do really want to just jump into the game, I do think that there's a lot here that you will enjoy. Just know that it's a hesitant yes until some of these bug fixes roll out. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you plan on checking out Humankind or if you've already picked it up and what you've been playing so far and what you think about it. Also, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. It helps me out a lot, and I'll see you guys next time.